There was a time when smoking wasn't just a habit, it was a statement. Think about old Hollywood. Movie stars weren't just actors, they were cultural icons. And a cigarette? It was their ultimate accessory. It didn't just sit in their hand, it elevated them, radiating style, sophistication, and confidence. But smoking wasn't confined to the silver screen, it was everywhere. Ads plastered on billboards, magazines, and even TV showed people living their best lives, lining up at lavish parties, relaxing on tropical beaches, and incredibly, even in doctors' offices. The slogans were irresistible: freedom, toughness, virality. Some ads even hinted at health benefits, pitching cigarettes as part of an aspirational lifestyle. Then there was Marlboro, and they took it to another level. They didn't just sell cigarettes, they sold an identity. The Marlboro Man wasn't just a cowboy. He was a living, breathing emblem of independence, ruggedness, and masculinity. But here's the twist. While the ads screamed freedom and power, the reality was far less glamorous. Behind closed doors, health experts were already raising alarms. So, how did smoking go from the epitome of sophistication to something most people now avoid like the plague? And how the cigarette industry is reinventing itself to target younger, unsuspecting generations? This is the story of smoking, how it rose, how it fell, and how it might still be finding ways to pull people in. Tobacco's history stretches back around 8,000 years, deeply rooted in the spiritual practices of indigenous peoples of the Americas. For centuries, it was used in ceremonies to connect with the divine. But everything changed in 1492 when Christopher Columbus landed in the Americas. Europeans were mesmerized by the sight of natives drinking smoke from rolled leaves, a ritual unlike anything they'd ever seen. Rodrigo de Jerez, one of Columbus' crew members, became the first European to try tobacco. His enthusiasm for this new habit, however, didn't go unnoticed. Upon returning to Spain, the Inquisition imprisoned him, declaring only the devil could blow smoke from the mouth and nose. Yet, tobacco's tumultuous debut in Europe didn't hinder its rise. By the 16th century, it has spread across Europe, Asia, and Africa, becoming a valuable trade commodity. Back then, it was even considered a remedy for ailments like migraines, a stark contrast to its reputation today. It wasn't until the World Wars, however, that cigarettes became a global phenomenon. Tobacco companies shipped millions of packs to soldiers on the front lines, ensuring not only comfort during war times, but also long-term addiction. Governments even distributed cigarettes to troops, recognizing how smoke helped alleviate the stress of combat. For soldiers, cigarettes became an inseparable part of daily life. After the war, smoking expanded far beyond the battlefields, morphing into a cultural symbol. The tobacco industry capitalized on this shift with cunning precision, finding new ways to ensnare the public. Hollywood became a key player. Movies associated tobacco with sophistication and rebellion, cementing its appeal. Iconic actors like Humphrey Bogart, Greta Garbo, and Audrey Hepburn made cigarettes look effortlessly stylish in classics like Breakfast at Tiffany's. During cinema's golden age, studios were even paid by tobacco companies to feature smoking on screen. The 1950s and 1960s marked a turning point in cigarette advertising. The creation of the Marlboro Man revolutionized marketing. Initially targeted at women, Marlboro pivoted toward men, using a rugged cowboy as the ultimate symbol of masculinity and independence. The solitary figure became a cultural icon, inspiring millions of young men around the world. But tobacco companies didn't stop there. They made the audacious move of associating cigarettes with doctors. Ads from the era featured physicians recommending specific brands like Camel, an idea unthinkable today. Meanwhile, brands sponsored high-profile events such as Formula One, linking smoking to adrenaline, prestige, and excitement. This lifestyle marketing strategy, selling success, status, and sophistication, worked. Tobacco sales soared, dominating popular culture. But by the 1980s, the tide began to turn. Society started to view smoking through a more critical lens. The once glamorous habit was becoming a public health villain. So, what caused the cultural shift? How did tobacco go from being a symbol of rebellion and allure to the centerpiece of one of the world's biggest health battles? It's 1590 and Pope Urban VII issued a bold decree. Anyone caught using tobacco near a church would face excommunication. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a declaration that smoking had no place in sacred spaces. But it didn't stop at churches. By the late 1600s, cities like Bavaria, Kursachsen, and parts of Austria followed suit, banning smoking altogether. Soon, cities such as Berlin and Königsberg joined in during the early 1700s. These early bans planted the seed for a movement. But it wasn't until the 20th century that smoking restrictions would truly take hold. Now, this is where it gets interesting. On January 11, 1964, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Luther L. Terry released a report that would shake the nation. Smoking wasn't just a habit anymore. It was directly linked to lung cancer, heart disease, and other deadly illnesses. Headlines exploded, and for the first time, smoking wasn't just a personal choice. It became a public health crisis. This was the report that changed everything. The government wasted no time. In 1965, the National Clearinghouse for Smoking and Health was established. Then came the Federal Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act, mandating health warnings on cigarette packs. By 1969, cigarette ads were completely banned from TV and radio. But the most shocking discovery came later. It wasn't just smokers at risk. Secondhand smoke was equally dangerous. Here's a staggering fact. According to the World Health Organization, secondhand smoke in enclosed spaces affects everyone, smokers and non-smokers alike. In the 1970s, some public areas began creating smoking sections, but studies revealed this wasn't enough. Even passive exposure increased risk of lung cancer and heart disease. Enter Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act in 1975. It was one of the first U.S. laws to ban smoking in shared spaces like workplaces and public transportation. This wasn't just a local trend, it was the start of a national movement. By the early 2000s, over 30 U.S. states had adopted similar smoke-free laws. But the movement didn't stop there. In 2004, Ireland became the first country to ban indoor smoking in all workplaces, including bars and restaurants. This bold step set a new global standard. Soon after, countries like Norway and New Zealand followed, expanding restrictions to school and public spaces. Fast forward to today, over 1.5 billion people in at least 55 countries live under smoke-free laws. Now, here's where the story splits. For non-smokers, these laws are a triumph. Clean air, healthier public spaces, and protection from secondhand smoke represent a massive public health win. But for smokers, the narrative is different. Lighting up isn't just a habit. For many, it's a source of relaxation or a way to cope with stress. These bans can feel isolating, turning a personal choice into a battleground. This right here is a symbol of said battleground. For non-smokers, a symbol of polluted air and health risks. For a smoker, it's a moment of calm, a way to ease the weight of a tough day. This tiny object means completely different things to different people. In the US, smoking bans have undeniably worked. Smoking rates have dropped, secondhand smoke exposure has decreased, and businesses haven't just survived. They've thrived economically. But challenges remain. Here's one of the biggest hurdles. The tobacco industry has long targeted vulnerable groups. In many low-income communities, smoking isn't just common, it's a cultural norm. It is seen as a way to relieve stress, to fit in, or simply to cope with harsh realities. For those facing economic hardship or lacking family support, quitting smoking feels like an impossible task. Add in the grip of nicotine addiction, where a single puff can deliver calming chemicals to the brain in just 20 seconds, and you begin to see why quitting isn't just about willpower. And yet, as traditional smoking declines, there's a new question on the horizon. With fewer people smoking cigarettes, what's pulling young people back into nicotine's grip? In a world where smoking rates are dropping and smoke-free laws are celebrated as public health victories, a new threat is quietly taking shape. Despite decades of anti-smoking campaigns and declining tobacco use, millions of Americans are still exposed to secondhand smoke, largely due to insufficient policies in the 22 U.S. states. But the story doesn't stop there. As traditional smoking declines, a new nicotine trend is on the rise: e-cigarettes. These electronic nicotine delivery systems have gained massive popularity, especially among younger generations. Let's look at the numbers. Since 2016, e-cigarettes have become the leading nicotine source for middle and high school students in the US. They're often marketed as tools to help people quit smoking, but their appeal to teens and young adults is undeniable, thanks largely to flavors like menthol, candy, and fruit. But here's where it gets tricky. E-cigarettes don't produce the thick smoke or strong odor of traditional cigarettes. At first glance, they seem harmless, and that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. For many young users, e-cigarettes feel like a safer alternative. The sleek design, sweet flavors, and glamorized depictions on social media reinforce this illusion. Unlike the harsh warnings surrounding cigarettes, vaping is marketed as modern, stylish, and even fun. Take this statistic. Studies reveal that 63 to 90% of young e-cigarette users prefer flavored options, believing they're less harmful. But the reality is far from sweet. Nicotine, the addictive chemical in both cigarettes and e-cigarettes, poses serious risks. particularly for young people. For anyone under 25, the brain's prefrontal cortex, which controls decision-making and impulse regulation, is still developing. This makes young users more susceptible to addiction. When nicotine activates the brain's reward system, it creates dopamine-driven habits that are hard to break. For teens and young adults, these habits can persist, leading to lifelong addiction. But here's the thing, the growing appeal of vaping isn't an accident. Social media has become the go-to platform for e-cigarette companies, where sophisticated marketing strategies target young audiences. From TikTok to podcasts, these companies know how to position their products as part of a trendy, modern lifestyle. Look closer. The ads rarely mention addiction risks. Instead, they rely on sleek visuals and social validation to make vaping seem harmless and appealing. Platforms flooded with influencers and celebrities normalize vaping in ways traditional anti-smoking campaigns struggle to counter. Health organizations, including the US Surgeon General, are sounding alarms. Research shows that teens who vape are over 4 times more likely to transition to smoking traditional cigarettes within 18 months. This isn't a small concern. It's a public health crisis that could reverse decades of progress in reducing youth smoking. While vaping might help some adults quit smoking, for young people it presents a new nicotine epidemic. A generation that could have avoided cigarettes altogether now faces the same risks under a different guise. Health officials are increasingly alarmed by the long-term effects of vaping. Studies reveal that e-cigarettes emit harmful substances linked to cancer, heart disease, and respiratory issues. Unlike traditional smoking, vaping often goes unnoticed in public spaces due to its subtle scent and discreet design. This means secondhand exposure may be more widespread than many realize. Take this. Bars, restaurants, and even schools are reporting rising incidents of indoor vaping. The concern isn't just about nicotine addiction, it's also about the health impacts on those involuntarily exposed to secondhand vapor. And teens? They're adapting quickly. In places where vaping is restricted, they've come up with workarounds. Some use mods to alter their devices, others resort to ghosting, where they take a puff, hold it in, and exhale without leaving a visible vapor trail. It's a subtle way to vape without being caught. Ironically, this effort to reduce traditional smoking rates has given rise to a new problem, a generation of young pen drive smokers that sees vaping as cleaner, safe, and far more socially acceptable. Marketing and social media deserve much of the blame. Think about it. Just as Hollywood glamorized cigarettes decades ago, today's influencers, sometimes unknowingly, are helping bring vaping into the mainstream. History is repeating itself. What can we do? Many experts suggest revisiting the anti-smoking campaigns of the 1990s and 2000s. These campaigns use graphic images, personal stories, and direct appeals to shift public perception. And they worked. Perhaps a similar strategy could counteract the current vaping trend, especially among young people. But it's not just about public messaging. Parents and educators play a critical role. Conversations about the risks of vaping and setting boundaries around social media can help protect young people from being influenced by targeted marketing. Without these interventions, the gap will be filled by influencers and e-cigarette companies, and not always in ways that serve young people's best interests. As we face this new wave of nicotine addiction, our mission hasn't changed: to protect public health and prevent a new generation from falling into addiction. But achieving this goal requires all of us to stay informed, be vigilant about the messages we encounter, and take action whenever we can. What do you think about this new generation of smoking? Is it the same as we had in the 1950s? Leave a comment below. If this video surprised you, I'm sure you'll enjoy this other one that's on screen right now. In it, we talk about the shocking truth about olive oil fraud, counterfeits, rising prices, and hidden scams that makes it one of the most frequently faked foods on the planet. So click on it and uncover the full story. That's it for this video. See you soon. Bye bye.